If anybody tells you that pronunciation rules don't exist in English, and that's why it's so difficult, they're completely ignoring the fact that there are lots and lots of guidelines that you should follow so that you pronounce most words correctly. Yes, there are exceptions, but if you follow all the guidelines and some rules that I'm going to teach you in this video, you will improve your pronunciation of thousands, I promise you, thousands of words in English. So let's hear these pronunciation rules and guidelines that you wish you had learned at school. Let's go. What's this? It's a bridge. So say the last part of that word, idge, idge. And we use that sound when words end age in English. Look at these examples. Message, village, garage. Do you hear? It's the idge sound that we use at the end of these words. Average, marriage, courage. I could continue. There are some exceptions, like if the word has one syllable, like page or age, and words that include those words, like teenage or homepage, but generally this rule is true. Isn't that cool? And yes, there are always exceptions, like some words that we've taken directly from French, like massage and collage, but there are more than 1,500 words that end age in English, and if you follow this rule, you'll pronounce most of them correctly. Okay, shall we have a look at how to pronounce another few thousand words correctly with just a few simple rules? Let's go. Okay, the second rule is for words that end like this, A-T-E. Now, you probably pronounce words like this with the 8 sound, like 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Well, that's not always true. I mean, it's true for one syllable words like skate and gate, but what about these words? Duplicate, associate, alternate? Well, these words can actually be pronounced in two different ways, and it all depends on whether it's a verb or a noun or adjective. And in these cases, they can be both. So the rule is quite simple. When we have verbs that end ate, the pronunciation is 8, like 5, 6, 7, 8. Duplicate, associate, alternate. They're fine as verbs. Some other examples are activate, create, animate, debate, and accelerate. As a verb, we pronounce ate like the number 8. However, when we are using adjectives or nouns that end ate, the pronunciation changes from 8 to ut. Ut. We use the schwa sound, which is very short, very relaxed mouth, and then the t sound, ut. So as nouns, the pronunciation of these words are duplicate and associate. Or as an adjective, the pronunciation of this is alternate. Alternate. Some other examples of this are affectionate, adequate, accurate, corporate, fortunate, unfortunate, appropriate, inappropriate, and passionate. So this rule is quite simple. If it's a verb, you pronounce it 8, and if it's a noun or adjective, it ends with the sound ut. Okay, the next pronunciation rule is a big one, and you can download all these rules and examples by clicking up there and getting the free worksheet from this lesson. There's also a link in the description. And rule number 3 is this. Can you go ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch? Okay, imagine you have some maracas in your hand. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Ch. Do this, and that is the end of words that end T-U-R-E. Simple. So it's culture. Ch-ch-ch-ch-ch at the end. Culture. Future. Feature. Literature. Signature. And adventure. So remember the maracas. Ch-ch-ch. And that is the end of these words. Now with rule number 4, it's important just to remember the difference between letters and sounds. When we're writing in English, we write with a combination of letters. But when we're speaking English, we don't speak letters. When we're speaking, we are producing a combination of sounds. Okay, so bear that in mind for this rule, is that when we have the letter D, so when we write the letter D, and the next sound in spoken English is either the long oo, or the or sound, then the D sounds like the J in June and July. June, July, And listen, the D sounds like a J in these words. Jew, duo, June, duplicate, or duplicate, depending whether it's a verb or noun, and duplex. Okay, these all have the oo sound after the letter D. Also, during, durable, and duration. These all have the or sound after the letter D, so the D sounds like a J. Okay, rule number 5 is quite similar, and rule number 5 is when words have the T, the letter T, followed by the oo sound, or the short schwa sound. Okay, so T followed by oo, YouTube, tube, ch-ch-ch, not t-t-t, not tube, tube, tuna, the fish, tuna, institution, intuitive, intellectual, and opportunity, opportunity, choo-choo, like a train, choo-choo, opportunity. Okay, let's listen to this when we have the T followed by the schwa sound. Unfortunate, unfortunate, picture, picturesque, picturesque, and congratulations, congratulations. So the T sounds like the CH in church and cheese when it's followed by the oo or sound. Another great rule. Okay, the next rule is probably the most powerful rule. In fact, I'm going to save that until the last one, and I'm going to teach you 2 stress-related rules first. Now, stress and the stressed syllable is really, really important in English. It's equally important as using the correct sounds. Where you stress a word can really be the difference between understanding you perfectly or not understanding you at all. Just look at these words a second. Photo, photography, photographic. Do you hear the stressed syllable is moving? That's what I mean when I talk about a stressed syllable. Okay, rule number 6 is this. When we have a phrasal verb, you know, a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition, like put up. Or a verb plus a preposition, like put up with. Well, when we have a phrasal verb, the stressed word is the second word. And it doesn't matter if the phrasal verb has 2 or 3 words. You stress the second word. This morning I woke up at 7 o'clock. I drank up my cup of tea and I set off at 8 o'clock. And later I'm going to pick up my girls from school. Phrasal verbs stress the second word. Now, another cool rule related to stress is with words like these. What did these words have in common? Bedroom, bookcase, football, swimming pool, apple tree, handshake, lunchtime. These are all words, all one thing, which is composed of two nouns. And when this happens in a word or in two words, like apple tree, we stress the first noun. There are loads of words like this in English. In fact, look around you now. Look in the room where you are now, and I'm sure you will see compound nouns. So listen again to the stressed part of these words. Bedroom, bookcase, football, swimming pool, apple tree, handshake, lunchtime. As with all these rules, there might be some exceptions, but it's a really, really good general rule to apply if you're not sure how to correctly pronounce a word in English. Okay, now have a look around you. Write in the comments one compound noun that you can see wherever you are now. Okay, in your room, in your car, wherever you are watching this. Tell me what you can see, and I'm sure that almost all of these will have the stress on the first noun. Okay, I mentioned the most powerful rule that I'm going to teach you today. Are you ready? Let's have a look. Okay, so in British English, when you have a vowel sound followed by the letter R is silent. It doesn't exist phonetically. We don't say it. We don't even think about it. It's not there. So don't do it, okay? If you want to speak clearly, don't pronounce the R after a vowel sound. It doesn't help us understand you. In fact, the opposite is true. It makes it more difficult to understand you if you pronounce the letter R in these situations. Now, there's one exception to this rule, which I will tell you about in a minute. But first, look at these examples and listen to hear if you can hear the pronunciation of the letter R. Hard, nurse, perform, 40, procedure, car, computer, here. In each case, you can see that there's absolutely no pronunciation of the letter R in those words and in millions of other words because they follow the vowel. Okay, now for the exception to this rule. The word procedure, for example, is followed by a vowel, the letter E, but it's not followed by a vowel sound. However, the procedure I performed, the next sound after the letter R is a vowel sound, I. So in this case, we pronounce the letter R to link those words together. The procedure I performed. The procedure I performed. So in those cases, yes, we pronounce the letter R. It's called the linking R because it helps us to link one word to the next. Here, silent R. Can you hear a noise? Pronounce the R because the next sound is a vowel sound. Hear a noise. Here, silent R. Hearing, pronounce the R because the next sound is a vowel sound. Right, let's now have a look at the pronunciation of this combination of letters. I'm sure you're familiar with this crazy combination of letters because that can be pronounced in 8 different ways. Wow. So I'm going to teach you how to know how we pronounce that combination of letters and the correct pronunciation in many common words. And I'm going to do that in that video there. For now, I hope you follow these 8 rules that I've taught you today. And if you want to take your pronunciation a step further with me, then join me inside my daily quick fix group. There's a link and a discount for you in the description below. So I hope you can join me there. Bye for now. look at this word. How do you pronounce this word? Well, actually, there are two different ways that we can pronounce this, and it all depends on whether we are using it as a noun or a verb. So look at these two examples here. The increase in unemployment was shocking. They increased the prices by 10%. Okay, in the first example, we're using increase as a noun, so we stress the first syllable, increase. In the second example, we're using it as a verb, so we stress the second syllable, increase. They increased the prices. Now this rule is true for other words that can be both a noun and verb. So, for example, you can see an attendance record on the school app. I record my videos inside my office. Record. When it's a noun, record when it's a verb. We stress the first syllable for a noun and the second syllable for a verb. Thanks for the birthday present. Present is a noun. We stress the first syllable. And let me present you with 8 simple pronunciation rules that you never learnt at school. Yes, this is part 2 because I've already done a lesson on 8 simple pronunciation rules to speak English clearly, and also a video on 8 silent letter rules. So make sure you watch those videos after this one. You can find the links in the description. Okay, we've looked at rule number 1. For rule number 2, I want you to tell me which is the stressed syllable in these words. Collaboration, cooperation, demonstration, fiction, modernization, organization, presumption, television, vision. Now, I often hear students having problems pronouncing these words because they try to put the stress on the first or second syllable of these words. But with words that end tion or jun, we put the stress on the penultimate syllable. So not the last syllable, but the one before that. Listen again. Competition, demonstration, fiction, nation, television, vision. Okay, it doesn't matter how long the word is, the stressed syllable is the penultimate one in these words. Okay, look at this little sentence here. Are you able to put the vegetables on the table? Are you able to put the vegetables on the table? Now, with the words able and table, the able is not a suffix. A suffix is just a little bit that we add to the end of words, like shun or jun and able. Now, when it's a suffix, we pronounce it able with the schwa sound. You need to practice the schwa sound for this. That's the schwa sound. Able. So listen to the pronunciation of able in these words. Comfortable, able. Comfortable, doable, manageable, manageable. Presentable, and vegetable, not vegetable, but vegetable. That is such a common mistake. So remember, if a word ends with the able suffix, it's the able pronunciation at the end. Okay, now able is a suffix, jun and shun is a suffix. Another suffix is eyes, like analyze, realize. And I hear a lot of students stressing this eyes suffix in words like analyze, organize, realize. And this is wrong. As a general rule, we never stress suffixes unless you are talking about your Japanese engineer's employee. Yeah, because e's like Japanese, E like employee, and ear like engineer, those suffixes we stress. But all the rest, and there are a lot, we don't stress. So instead, it's analyze, organize, realize, monetize. Never stress the eyes suffix. Okay, just a quick reminder that you can download a summary of this lesson with all the examples and a test by clicking up there. And once you get that, you will also have access to all my past PDFs, and I will share with you all my future PDFs too. Okay, rule number 5. And you know what an adjective is, right? It's a word that describes a noun. Do you know what a compound adjective is? Well, basically it's an adjective that is composed of 2 or more words. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see if you can tell me what rule number 5 is. Here are some compound adjectives. Good-looking, hard-working, world-famous, old-fashioned, well-known. That's right. With compound adjectives, we stress the second word. She's a good-looking girl. Good-looking girl. It's a world-famous restaurant. A world-famous restaurant. He's a well-known author. It's an old-fashioned tradition. Stress the second word in compound adjectives. And how important is this? Well, it's quite important if you want to be easily understood, because if you say that that person is hardworking, it's not natural, and a native speaker might just say, what? And make you repeat it, okay? And frankly, you don't want that. You want to speak clearly and be easily understood. And for that reason, where you put the stress in words and in sentences can really, really help you be clearly understood. Okay, rule number 6 really surprises me, because the most common word in the English language is the word the. I mean, I've literally just used it 4 times in that last sentence. But how many times do I get asked this question? Greg, how do you pronounce the word the? It's crazy. I mean, I'm sure you learnt this word in your first ever English class. And the answer is, there are 2 different ways to pronounce this word. It depends what the next word is. If the next word begins with a vowel sound, then the pronunciation is the, with E-E-E sound. So the elephant, the owl, the honest man, the achievement, the unbelievable experience. In these situations, the word the is pronounced the. If the next word begins with a consonant, then it's pronounced the. The table, the chair, the country, the person, the feeling. Interestingly, I'm from Yorkshire in England, and we often don't pronounce the word the at all in that part of the country. You could quite easily hear somebody saying, I went to cinema last week to watch Lion, Witch and Wardrobe. Yeah, but more about that in that video if you're interested. Okay, rule number 7 is about abbreviations. An abbreviation is where we say like 3 or 4 letters instead of the full expression. So ASAP is a common one, which means as soon as possible. I'll call you ASAP instead of I'll call you as soon as possible. Now, there are hundreds of abbreviations in English, but what you probably never learned was how to pronounce them when we're speaking. And what we normally do in English is we pronounce every letter individually and we stress the last letter. So it's ASAP, letter by letter, and we stress P. Here are some more common ones. For your information, we say FYI. FYI, I'll be out of the office tomorrow. RSVP means répondez s'il vous plaît. It's French, but we use it in English to mean a reply. So send me your RSVP tomorrow, please. I like listening to music by REM, the music group REM, and I sent her an IM and an SMS, and she still didn't reply. IM, instant message, SMS, like a text message, a short message service, it stands for, I think. But yeah, we stress the last letter. Okay, we've already looked at the most common word in English, the, which you probably learned in your first ever English lesson. In your second English lesson, you probably learned the numbers. And guess what? Most upper intermediate students still have problems with these numbers, specifically the ones between 13 and 19 and multiples of 10. Now, the crazy thing is that the pronunciation of the numbers between 13 and 19 changes depending on the situation in which we use them. Yeah, so when we're counting, we stress the first syllable. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Stress the first syllable there. When we're using these numbers within a normal sentence, we stress both syllables. She's 14 years old. 14, bam, bam, stress both syllables. She's 14 years old. She was born on the 15th of August. 15th, bam, bam. That book cost £18. 18 pounds. In a sentence, stress both syllables. And finally, if these numbers come at the end of a sentence or at the end of a phrase, we stress the last syllable. She was born in 2019. I met her when I was 18. Wow. Did you ever learn that rule? Let me know in the comments. Now, with the multiples of 10, we always stress the first syllable, and also these do not have the n sound at the end that we have with 13, 14, 15, etc. So 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Easy. Okay, I have a quiz question for you now. Look at these 4 words here. They all have GH in them, and the GH is silent in 3 of these words, but we pronounce it in 1 of them. Which word do we pronounce the GH in? Well, I'll tell you the answer in that video there, and I'll also tell you a great rule so we know when the GH is silent, and also 8 other amazing silent letter rules in English. Okay, if you want to learn English pronunciation on a more personal level with me, I have a coupon code and a link to my complete pronunciation course in the description. If you've liked the video, subscribe, thumbs up, blah blah blah, and bye for now. You know what this is, right? It's a door. You can say door. So why do you do something strange with this word? Daughter. The GH is completely silent. It's basically the word door and the sound t. Daughter. I mean, didn't you know that when we have a vowel sound in English followed by GH, the GH is silent unless it uses the F sound, like cough and rough? Yes, in all other situations, the GH is silent, like daughter, court, thought, bought, taught, high, night, thigh, through, thorough. Did you hear me pronounce the GH in any of those words? It's a great pronunciation rule that I want you to learn, and I've got so many more silent letter rules for you inside this lesson. So let's go. Okay, this is a British English pronunciation lesson, by the way, and something I hear quite a lot is students saying, "Hey Greg, I have a doubt. Well, did you know that when we have the B-T combination of letters, especially at the end of words, the B is silent? And did you also know you should say, "I have a question," instead of "I have a doubt"? But anyway, look at these examples. Doubt, debt, and subtle. Now, this doesn't work when we're using sub as a prefix meaning below, like subtitle or subterrane, but generally this rule works well. Now, yes, I'm going to include the phonetic transcription of the words in this lesson. If you're not familiar with the sounds, with the symbols of these transcriptions, please take the time to learn them. It will really benefit you when you're learning pronunciation. Okay, it changed my life when I learned them when I was learning French, and I make it really simple for you in that video up there. So I'll put a link in the description. Please watch that video. It will absolutely benefit you when you're learning pronunciation. Okay, let's have a look at the next rule. Here's another rule for the silent B, and this is for words that end MB. In this situation, we do not pronounce the letter B. Dumb, thumb, lamb, climb, bomb, tomb. Again, do you hear? Do you see? There's no B in the transcription, and you do not hear any B at the end of that word. So don't pronounce it just because we write it. It will not help us understand you. It will do the opposite. Okay? If I asked you if you want a teeb, you'd probably say, what, a teeb? Yeah, I don't pronounce a B at the end of T, so don't pronounce a B at the end of thumb, because it doesn't exist in spoken English. Okay, I have some really common mistakes coming up. Just want to tell you that you can download a full summary and a test of this lesson by clicking up there. Again, there's a link in the description. Just enter your email and I will send it to you. You will also get access to all my previous lessons, and I will also email you a PDF every time I do a new video. Wow. Okay, the next silent letter rule is a big one, and it's for words that end ED in the past tense. The E is completely silent. Yeah, look at these. Asked, walked, ordered, laughed, picked, tried, chased. There's no E sound or sound or I sound in these words. Now, the only exception to this rule is when the verb ends with a T or D sound, like want or decide or need or hate. And in this situation, we pronounce the E. The ending sounds like this. Id. So wanted, needed, decided, and hated. But for all the other letters that the verbs can end in, we add ed to put it in the past, and that E is silent. So again, if you want to speak clearly and be easily understood in English, don't pronounce the E in these words. It won't help us understand you. Okay, rule number 5, and probably one of the most mispronounced words, is the word pregnant. Now look at the GN in the word pregnant. Pregnant. The G is in one syllable. The N is in a different syllable. In those situations, we pronounce both letters. But if they come in the same syllable, the G is silent. Foreign, design, sign, feign, and rain. Yes, the G, as you can see and hear, the G does not exist phonetically. Okay, you might know rule number 6. It's quite well known. Let's see if you know. Can you tell me which is the silent letter in these words? Knife, night, no, knowledge, knee. Of course. The K is silent in words that begin KN. And rule number 7 might be well known, but I can promise you that most of my students decide not to follow it. And that is that when we have a word that uses the R or O sound and then LF or LK, we'll look at some examples, but in these situations, the L is silent, completely silent. So using the R sound, we have half, calf, and palm. Using the O sound, we have chalk, walk, and talk. And using the O sound, we have yoke and folk. Don't pronounce the L in these words. And while I'm mentioning this, let's just have a special moment to talk about my 3 friends, should, could, and would. Never pronounce the L in these words. Again, it doesn't exist. It's a really common mistake, but just stop it. Okay, I have a quiz question for you in 1 minute. But before, let's have a look at number 8, and that is where words begin GU and a vowel, or BU and a vowel, that U is silent. So look at guide, guest, and guard. It's not guide, guest, and guard. The U is silent. It's guide, guest, and guard. And for words beginning B, U, and a vowel, build, building, and boy. A boy with this spelling is one of those big orange balls that you see in the middle of the sea or in the middle of a lake. A boy. Okay, let's have a look at your quiz today. We have 4 words here which end A-G-E. In 3 of them, the A-G-E is pronounced the same, but in one of these words, the A-G-E is pronounced differently. Which one is pronounced differently? Well, I'll tell you the answer in that video there. It's rule number 1 of 8 simple pronunciation rules to help you speak clearly. And if you want to improve your pronunciation with me on a more personal level, there's a coupon code for you to join my complete British English pronunciation course. The coupon and the link are in the description. What's the difference between hurricane and hurricane? And what's the difference between the Super Bowl and a Super Bowl? Well, the answer is word stress, and it's a really important aspect of pronunciation. And today I'm going to teach you 8 simple word stress rules so that you can speak English more clearly and accurately. Let's go. So before we start, there is a simple way for you to know where the stressed syllable is in every word in English. And that is by just learning some basic phonetics. If you look in the dictionary and see the phonetic transcription for a word, there is a little apostrophe type thing just before the stressed syllable in every word. And every word in English has just one stressed syllable. So look at these words and also listen to hear how I stress the stressed syllable in these words. Photograph, photograph. Here the stressed syllable is the first syllable. Photograph. Photography, photography. See the little apostrophe before the second syllable? Photography. And photographic, photographic. Here we stress the third syllable, photographic. And you have the little apostrophe before that in the phonetic transcription. So learn some phonetics. It will make your life easier, I promise. Okay, so let's have a look now at these 8 simple rules. Every rule has exceptions in English, so maybe we should call them guidelines. Whatever you want to call them, we have 8 simple ways for you to speak more clearly using correct word stress in English. So let's go. Okay, the first rule is related to words that have 2 syllables. So look at these nouns that have 2 syllables and tell me where the stress is. Campus, county, maker, picture, water, entry. That's right. With 2 syllable nouns, the stress goes on the first syllable. Now listen to these adjectives. Happy, pretty, royal, mobile, local. Again, with nouns and adjectives that have 2 syllables, we stress the first syllable. And don't worry, I've put all these examples and a summary of all today's rules in a free worksheet for you. You can download that PDF and get all of these examples and rules for your reference, just for you. There's a link up there and there's a link in the description too. Okay, let's have a look at some more words with 2 syllables. Okay, rule 2 also relates to words that have 2 syllables, but in this case, we're looking at verbs. So listen to these verbs and tell me where the stress is. Repeat, collect, forgive, allow, prefer, impose. That's right, with verbs that have 2 syllables, the stress is on the second syllable. And yes, there are exceptions. Feel free to write any exceptions in the comments, but generally this rule is true. Now, there are some situations where we have one word that can be a verb and a noun So what do we do in those situations? Well, that's rule number 3. Okay, rule 3 is really simple. As I said, we have some words that can be both a verb and a noun. We stress the first syllable if it's a noun, like record, and the second syllable, like record, if it's a verb. In other words, it follows rules 1 and 2 perfectly. So look at some more examples of this. Import is the noun, import is the verb. Produce is the noun, produce is the verb. More nouns are rebel, conflict, research. And the verbs are rebel, conflict, research. And there are a couple of common exceptions to this rule. Respect always has the stress on the second syllable, and question always has the stress on the first syllable, but generally this rule is almost always true and a really common mistake that students make. Okay, let's change the topic a little bit in rule number 4. Okay, I want to talk about the suffixes, but suffixes are those little letters that you always put at the end of words. You see them in many different words, like ik, or jun, or shun. So I want to talk specifically about those suffixes in this particular rule, because when we have a word that includes those suffixes, the stressed syllable is the syllable just before the suffix. In other words, it's the penultimate syllable in the word. And it doesn't matter how long the word is, this rule is true. So look at some examples here. Static, traffic, athletic, enthusiastic, electric. Did you hear? The stressed syllable is the syllable just before ik. And this rule is true for words that end shun and jun. So listen again with words that end shun. Induction, creation, expectation, objection, distinction, presentation, coordination. And again, it doesn't matter how long the word is, when you have a word that ends ation, the stressed syllable will always be a. Nation, coordination, mobilization, expectation. Okay, let's have a look now at words that end jun, like television. Again, listen for the stressed syllable in these words. It's the penultimate syllable. Conclusion, revision, conversion, provision, vision, television. Okay, so the next time you see a word that ends ik, shun, or jun, stress the penultimate syllable. Okay, this rule is going to help you pronounce another hundreds of words correctly, because words that end with all these suffixes follow the same stress pattern. So we're talking about the suffixes c, phi, t, and g. I'm going to say a few words, and again, listen to see if you can hear the pattern and you can hear where the stressed syllable is. So for the c suffix, democracy, pregnancy. For the phi suffix, cinematography, photography. For the t suffix, productivity, diversity. And for the g suffix, biology, analogy. Did you hear where it was? Well, in all of these words, we do not stress the last syllable, we do not stress the penultimate syllable, but we stress the syllable before that. So you have the stressed syllable and then two more before the end of the word. Listen again. Democracy, cinematography, productivity, analogy. So it's not the last, not the penultimate, but the one before that. And the same rule applies to words that end ate. Now there are two different ways to pronounce ate, which I talk about in that video up there. That's a great video with loads of pronunciation rules, which I highly recommend you watch after this one. So again, listen carefully to some examples of these words, and listen how we don't stress the suffix, we don't stress the penultimate syllable, but it's the syllable before that that we stress. Eliminate, integrate, regulate, negotiate, accurate or adequate. It follows the same rule, and so do words that end ul. Ul. We write it with al, but we use the schwa sound to pronounce words that end like this. Ul. Economical, mathematical, ethical, critical. This rule is amazing and will help you pronounce thousands of words correctly. And again, all these examples and rules are on the free PDF, which you can download by clicking the link in the description. Now, all this talk of suffixes makes me want to just stress one important rule to you, and that is that we never stress a suffix in English. There are lots of different suffixes, but we never stress them. There are 3 examples to this rule. So, Japanese employee, who's an engineer, those suffixes we stress, but all the rest we don't. And I just want to point out one that I always correct to the students inside my pronunciation course and my daily quick fix WhatsApp group. These are words that end eyes. We never stress the suffix eyes. And if you stress the suffix eyes, you're going to be making a pronunciation mistake and maybe not be clearly understood in English. For example, it's realize, not realize. I hear many students saying realize, stressing eyes. But if you stress eyes and say realize, you're actually talking about eyes. Like these are real eyes. They're not fake. Realize. But realize is the verb. Analyze, not analyze. Organize, not organize. Never stress the suffix eyes. Never stress any suffixes unless you're talking about the Japanese employee who is an engineer. Okay, the next rule is another rule that can really cause confusion if you stress the wrong part of the word. Compound nouns. These are basically one thing that is composed of 2 words, like bedroom or swimming pool. Doesn't matter if they're 2 separate words or 1 word. If it's a compound noun, we stress the first word, normally the first noun, in that word. Another couple of examples are greenhouse or bluebird. Can you hear? We stress the first part of the word because it's a compound noun. It's one thing that is composed of 2 words. Some more examples are motorcycle, haircut, and handshake. Do you hear? In all those situations, we stress the first word. Now, be careful, because if you stress the wrong part of this word, you can change the meaning of the word. Like a bluebird, it's a type of bird. It's blue. It's called a bluebird. It's a compound noun, we stress the first word, blue. But if we stress the second word, a blue bird, we could be talking about any bird at all. We're just talking about a bird which is blue. The same thing applies for a greenhouse. A greenhouse is made of glass. You put plants and fruit in there to grow. But a greenhouse is actually a house which is green. One noun, house, and we're describing it with an adjective. And all this takes me very nicely to rule number 7. Okay, so rule number 7 is that when you have an adjective plus a noun, we stress the noun. Like nice person, little shop, big shoes. We stress the noun in these situations. A kind boy, a great game. A fast car, a new sofa. Do you hear? In all those situations, we're stressing the noun. And this is why when we're talking about the Super Bowl, we want to stress the first syllable, super, Super Bowl. But if we're just talking about a really cool bowl, we stress the word bowl. Wow, that is a Super Bowl. Okay, another stress rule for you is related to phrasal verbs. Now, a phrasal verb is a verb plus a preposition, or a verb plus a preposition plus a preposition. Yes, some phrasal verbs have two prepositions in them. The rule is that with phrasal verbs, we want to stress the second word. So, for phrasal verbs with one preposition, put up, get on, come back, look out. Do you hear? We always stress that preposition in those phrasal verbs. And for phrasal verbs that have two prepositions, put up with, cut down on, look forward to, keep up with. Again, we stress the second word. As I mentioned before, I want to tell you the 10 most common mistakes that I hear my students inside my courses make, and teach you them so that you don't make the same mistakes too. So let's go. Number one is hotel, which is actually an exception to rule number one. It has two syllables, but we stress the second syllable. Hotel. Number two is guitar. Again, a noun with two syllables. We normally stress the first syllable in these cases, but with guitar, we stress the second syllable. And another exception to rule number one, which is a super common mistake, is exam. Stress the last syllable in that word. And another word we stress the last syllable in is afternoon. Afternoon. I'll see you on Tuesday afternoon. Stress noon in that word. Okay, how about this word? Catholic. This follows rule number 4. It's a word that ends ic, so we stress the syllable before that. However, the O in this word is silent, so we're not stressing O, we're stressing cath. Catholic. The next one is understand, not understand. We never stress the prefix under in words. It's understand, undergo, underachieve. This next one is probably the one that I correct the most, and it is interesting. We stress the first syllable in this word. We do, seriously, believe me. I correct it every single week. It's interesting. Learn it, please. The next one is development, where we stress the second syllable. Development, not development. Don't stress the first syllable like many students do. Stress the second, stress vel, development. And that's true for all related words like develop, developing, development. And finally, I mentioned it earlier, realize, not realize. Don't stress eyes. We're not using the adjective noun combination. Real eyes. No, we're using the verb realize. Stress the first syllable in that word. If you want to speak fast and fluent and natural English, then you need to start using these connected speech techniques that I'm going to teach you today. They are amazing. So let's go. It's called connected speech because these techniques help us connect words together so that when we're speaking, it sounds like this, wow, 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 and not like this, ba, 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 ba. So let's have a look at the first technique. Okay, when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound, we use a linking technique called consonant to vowel linking. And that really helps push the words together to make both words clearer and to make the speech more natural, more quick, and more fluent. Now, we're going to look at a few examples in a minute, but this is really powerful, especially for students who, because of their mother tongue, often miss the last consonant sound in a word, or don't give any importance to the last consonant sound in a word, or actually add an extra sound after words that end in a consonant. So this technique is going to get rid of those bad habits. It's going to help both words be pronounced more clearly and be easier to understand you when you use this technique. So this is how we do it. Let's look at the example, an apple. An ends with a consonant sound. Apple begins with a vowel sound. To help join those words together so that it doesn't sound like an apple, but it sounds like an apple, what we do mentally is take the last consonant sound of the first word, in this case the N of un, and put it at the beginning of the next word. So in your mind, instead of saying an apple, you want to be thinking a napple, a napple, a napple. And if you do that subconsciously, you will link the words together better. You will give the importance to the consonant that it needs to pronounce those two words clearly, push them together, speak more quickly, fluently, and naturally. Let's have a look at a few more examples of this. Big elephant becomes big elephant, big elephant. Brown owl becomes brow nowl, brown owl, brown owl. Come in becomes come in, come in. And expressions like not at all becomes not at all, not at all. And doesn't not at all sound much more natural than not at all, with gaps between the words? We don't want gaps between every word. We want to link everything together to sound fast and fluent. I went on a boat. 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 So that's what happens when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound. But what happens when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word begins with a consonant sound? Let's have a look. This is a really, really useful technique for speaking more quickly. Basically, when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word begins with the same consonant sound, like black and cat, black ends with the k sound, cat begins with the k sound. Well, in these situations, we don't pronounce the consonant sound twice. It's not black cat with a gap between. No, instead we just use one slightly longer consonant sound and join the words together. So instead of black cat, it's black cat with one sound in the middle. Bad day. It's been a bad day. Bad day. Again, we don't pronounce two d sounds, bad day. No, just use one slightly longer d sound, bad day, bad day. Quite tough, quite tough. Again, this technique can really help students who naturally put a little sound after words that end with a consonant sound, like quite tough. We don't want to do that. If you do that, it will make it harder for us to understand you. So stop doing that and instead use consonant to consonant linking to join the words together and sound more natural and more easy to understand. Feel lucky, feel lucky. Pink car, phone number, phone number. And of course, we can do this many times within the same phrase or sentence. So instead of James started doing good deeds, say James started doing good deeds. Beautiful. Okay, for the next technique, you're going to need to remember the golden rule of speaking British English. Are you ready? Okay, so the golden rule in British English pronunciation is when you have a vowel sound followed by the letter R in the written word, that letter R is silent, completely silent. Let's have a look at some examples and see if you can hear me pronounce the R sound in any of these words. Car, for, better, near, future, Liverpool, brother, sister. The R is completely silent in these situations. Now, there is one exception to this rule, and that is when we have the vowel sound followed by the letter R. If the next sound is also a vowel sound, then we pronounce the letter R. This can happen in words like experience. Here, the letter R is between two vowel sounds, so we pronounce it. Terrible. Again, it's between two vowel sounds, so we pronounce it. But this also happens when a word ends in the vowel sound plus letter R combination, and the next word begins with a vowel sound. In these situations, we pronounce the letter R. It's called the linking R in this situation because it helps us link one word to the next word without a gap. For example, here we pronounce the letter R in for. For example, the car always breaks down. The car always, the car always breaks down. Instead of there are better options with gaps, we say there are better options with two linking R sounds to make that whole phrase much more natural and fluent. There are better options. They live far away. The future is exciting. This gets better and better. Now, the next technique is kind of similar to this one. We add a R sound to link two words together. The only difference is, with the next one, we don't actually write the letter R in the written word. This is a good one. Okay, look at these next few examples and listen to try to hear a R sound between the words. The idea of it. The idea of it. Vanilla ice cream. Vanilla ice cream. Raw egg. Raw egg. Pizza and pasta on a plate. Pizza and pasta on a plate. That is the intrusive R sound in English. I like to think of it as an imaginary R sound because we don't write it. English is full of silent letters that you write and don't pronounce. Well, here we have one that we don't write, but we pronounce. Crazy. So when do we use this intrusive R sound? Well, in three situations. When one word ends with one of these sounds, like data or idea, or like law or saw, and R, like spa or Panama. When one word ends with one of those sounds and their next word begins with a vowel sound, we put a little R sound to link the words together, even though we don't write it. So instead of your data is secure, we say your data is secure. Instead of law and order, we say law and order. Law and order. And instead of the spa at the hotel, we say the spa at the hotel. The spa at the hotel. Isn't that fun? Now, listen, when I'm teaching this inside my pronunciation course, a lot of students ask me if they do this in American English too. And the answer is no. This is a real British English characteristic. It will help you speak faster English and sound more natural if British English is your focus, but regardless of that, it will help you to understand native British English speakers more easily if you're familiar with this technique. Okay, so we've seen the linking R and the intrusive R. Now let's have a look at another linking sound. So we've seen this with the linking R and intrusive R. When one word ends with a vowel sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound, something needs to go in the middle to join the words together. We've looked at the R options, but with this technique, we're going to add a little Y sound in the middle, like the Y of yes or yellow. Y, y, y. So listen, instead of Ellie ate the juicy orange, we say Ellie ate the juicy orange. Ellie ate, the juicy orange, orange. Ellie ate the juicy orange. So here's the rule for this linking Y technique. Basically, when one word ends with these sounds, E, like T, and then these three diphthongs that end with the E sound. I, like by, A, like today, and oi, like boy. So think by, T, today, boy. By I-E-A, oi. When one word ends with one of these sounds and the next word begins with a vowel sound, put the linking Y between the words to link them together. You can rely on me. You can rely, you can rely on me. Let's try out that new place. Let's try out, yout. Let's try out that new place. Now, one really common situation where we use this is with the word the. Because there are two ways to pronounce the. If it's followed by a consonant, we say the table, the chair. But if the word the is followed by a vowel sound, the becomes the, and because it ends E, we need to put a little linking Y sound to link it to the next word. So, the actor, the actor. The end, the ice cream, the orange, the umbrella. So it's not a very strong Y sound. It can often happen naturally when you're pronouncing the E and making the transition to the next vowel sound. But just be aware that there is a little Y sound to link those words together. And that is the linking Y. Now this is something that I correct my pronunciation students a lot. It's the linking W sound, like the W like want, or white. W. Again, we use it when one word ends with a vowel sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound, but in this situation, we use it when the first word ends with one of these vowel sounds. Oo and the diphthongs that include this oo sound at the end, they are ow and o. Ow, o. Look at my lips when I'm pronouncing these words. Oo, ow, o. When I'm pronouncing those sounds, my mouth ends in this position. So it's natural then that the transition from that shape of mouth to the next word that begins with a vowel starts like this. Where, were. So naturally, we make a little w sound. And if you use that w sound, it will really help you join the words together to speak more quickly, naturally, and fluently. The most obvious example of this is with the expression, how are you? How ends with the ow sound. The next word begins with a vowel sound, so we put a little w. How were. How are you? How are you? Can you imagine Can you imagine? Wimagine? Can you imagine? Did you hear? Again, we put a little w sound to link the words together. And again, one of the most common places that we'll find this is when we're using the word to. Now, when we're speaking very quickly, to can often become t, using the schwa sound, t. I'm going to the shop to buy something to take to the party, t. Do you hear? However, if the word to is followed by a vowel sound, we need to pronounce it two, like the number 2. And we will then include a linking w sound between that and the next word. I want to ask you a favor. To ask. I want to ask you a favor. I don't want to avoid it. To avoid it. Johnny went to Australia. To Australia. Okay, now let's have a look what happens when we put all these linking techniques together. So listen the first time with me and then practice saying this little story using all the connected speech techniques that we've done in today's lesson. Let's have a look. Ellie, a big elephant, had a bad day and went on a boat to relax. A black cat on the boat took her to a vanilla ice cream shop on an island. Ellie wanted a better option, so she went to Australia and New Zealand, where she found a new way of life with a brother and sister elephant. The end. Okay, let's do it one more time, and I want you to read the text at the same time as me. Let's go. Ellie, a big elephant, had a bad day and went on a boat to relax. A black cat on the boat took her to a vanilla ice cream shop on an island. Ellie wanted a better option, so she went to Australia and New Zealand, where she found a new way of life with a brother and sister elephant. The end. Okay, there's a link in the description to join my daily quick fix group. We look at pronunciation techniques like this every single week. And in fact, every day inside the group, I give you a lesson to help you take your pronunciation, speaking, listening, grammar and vocabulary to an advanced level. So if you want to speak fast, fluent English and understand native speakers, fast-speaking native speakers more easily, then click the link in the description and use the coupon code there, which will give you a discount for your first month inside the group. You've learnt the word and you can write the word, but when you say the word, nobody understands you and communication breaks down. Not good. So I've taken the 20 most commonly mispronounced words from the students inside my courses over the past 6 months, and I'm going to teach you them all inside this lesson. I help lots of students inside my courses with their pronunciation. In fact, my students come from 90 different countries. But everyone makes pronunciation mistakes because of these 3 reasons. The first reason is that you stress the wrong syllable. And this is really, really common, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons people make pronunciation mistakes. Like, for example, if I ask you if you know who David Beckham is, do you know? What about if I ask you if you know who David Beckham is? If you stress the wrong syllable in a word, it becomes very difficult to understand what we're talking about. The second reason is that you're using the wrong sound in a word. For example, the word work, which many students pronounce incorrectly because of that vowel sound in the middle. If you put the or sound there instead of the sound, it becomes a different word. It becomes walk instead of work. And the third reason is because of silent letters and students often wanting to pronounce all the letters in a word. Well, English is full of silent letters, and if you pronounce these silent letters, it can be very difficult to understand what you're talking about. Like the word Q. If you pronounce that Q-E-O-E, people would just think you're making a funny sound. So we're going to divide today's lesson into those 3 categories. There are 20 words, and I want you to take note and tell me in the comments how many of these words you currently pronounce badly. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, this section is all about stress, and when I talk about a stressed syllable, just know that every word in English has one stressed syllable and the other syllables are weak. So listen to the word computer. Computer. Pew is the stressed syllable in that word. Okay, the first word that you are probably mispronouncing is this one. Interesting. And this has the stress on the first syllable. It's not interesting with the stress on the second. No, no, no. Interesting with the stress on the first syllable. And this is also true for related words like interestingly or interest or interested. That one is such a common mistake. The second one is realized, and students often say realized, but basically you have to follow the suffix rule in this. The suffix rule is that we don't stress a suffix in a word. A suffix is something like eyes at the end of realize or organize. When we have a suffix like that, there are 3 exceptions, but normally we do not stress the suffix. And words ending in eyes never stress eyes. Realize, the stress on the first syllable. The next one is perspective. You need a very short first syllable, p, and then stress the second syllable, perspective. And the same goes for the next word, which is fulfill. Again, short first syllable, stress the second syllable. It's not fulfill. No, it's fulfill. And this is also true for related words like fulfilling, fulfillment. All of these words have the stress on fill. Okay, the next 4 words actually all follow this same rule. Short first syllable, stressed second syllable. And the next one is development. Development, where we need to stress vel. And it's really important to know that all the other syllables in that word are just weak. Say them quickly. They're not important. The only important syllable that you need to really focus on is vel. Development. And that is also true for the verb. Develop. Developing. Developed. All these related words have the stress on the second syllable. The next one is significantly or significant. Short first syllable, stress the second syllable, and people will understand you much more clearly. Significant. And the next one is participate. Again, we need to stress the second syllable. But the main problem with my students' pronunciation of this word is that they tend to want to stress the suffix again. They want to stress ate. They often say participate, and that is breaking the suffix rule. Don't stress suffixes in English. The next word is very similar. Associate. We want to stress the second syllable. Associate. And again, we do not want to stress ate in words that end A-T-E. It's associated. Now, I understand that this can be a little bit confusing because look at this word. Here, we do stress A. Association. But the reason for that is very simple. When you have a word that ends ation, the stress is always on the A in that word. Doesn't matter if it's a very small word, like station, we still stress A, station, or a very long word, like procrastination. Again, we stress that A at the end of ation. So it's associate, associated, but association. All right, the next one is characteristics. Words that end ic or ix always have the stress on the penultimate syllable. Characteristics, that's the penultimate syllable. You can see this rule in other words like Olympic, drastic, fantastic. But generally, with long words like this, like characteristic, which has 5 syllables, if you can focus on the most important syllable in the word, it's going to be much easier to pronounce that word. If you focus on and try to put the stress on a different syllable, you're going to get yourself into trouble and it will be more complicated to pronounce that word. Okay, the next one is this, a very common word, and we need to stress the last syllable in this word, understand, understand. And in fact, all verbs, not all words, but all verbs that begin under don't have the stress on under. So it's understand, undergo, underachieve. Okay, and the last one in this stress section is not exactly one word, but a little grammatical construction, which is this. As adjective as possible, like as soon as possible, as fast as possible. I often hear students really stressing the word as at the beginning of this little construction, like as fast as possible, as soon as possible. A good rule to follow in English is that all these little grammar words like as and other prepositions like for, from, to, and articles like the, these are all not stressed. In English, they're very weak. We say them very quickly. They often take the schwa sound because they're so weak and quick and unimportant. But generally, we do stress adjectives in sentences. So in this little construction, we have little grammar word, important adjective, little grammar word. So stress the word in the middle, but don't stress the word as in this construction. All right, in this section, students tend to use a different sound than the sound they should, and this can often cause misunderstanding. It can often cause me to understand a different word or to simply not understand what they're saying. So the first one in this category is this, 10 years. A decade, dec, with the sound, not the I sound like decade. I don't know where that comes from, but decade is what you want for this one. The next one is threat. This also has the same sound as decade, like head. Okay, threat ends the same as get. And I understand the confusion. I mean, look at these words here and listen to the vowel sound in the middle of each one. Meet, E-E-E. Great, A-A-A. Threat, E-E-E. They're all different. And yes, the E-A combination of letters normally gives the E sound in the majority of cases, but it just shows that it's really important that when you learn a word, you learn the pronunciation of the word at the same time. Okay, the next word is this one. We looked at it earlier in the introduction. It is work. This has what I call the disgusting sound in the middle. The disgusting sound because it's the sound you make when something is quite disgusting, like work. Work. And the problem with this word is that my students' pronunciation tends to be influenced by how the word is written. So because it's written with an OR, they tend to reflect that in their pronunciation of the word. But the disgusting sound and English in general does not work like that. I mean, look at all these words that have the disgusting sound. The first word the nurse heard, It's spelt differently in each case, but quite often from students I might hear things like the first word the nurse heard, with a different vowel sound in each case. The disgusting sound is consistent, it's identical in all of these words, and the letter R is silent, so it's the first word the nurse heard. And so we need that sound in the word work. Work. Okay, the next one is this. Yawn. Yawning. This has the cute sound in it. I call it the cute sound because it's normally the sound you make when you see a cute little baby or a cute dog or a cute cat, whatever you find to be cute. Oh, oh. And it's that sound that we need in this. The sound is really common in words like for or more, water, horses, more water, 4 horses, or, yaw, yawning. And the next one is this. Students tend to pronounce that letter E in the middle like an experience. But no, it's E. So basically, we're pronouncing the beginning of this word like the letter X and the letter P. Experience. The next one is this. We have 2 ways that we normally pronounce the letter G in English. One is g, the hard G, and one is j, the soft G. And this one has the hard G, g, target, not target. And the last one in this sound section is the past participle of the verb to drive. Drive has the I sound, but the past participle does not. It's not driven, it's driven. Driven. Like the past participle of the verb to give, given. All right, let's have a look at some silent letters, shall we? Silent letters are a super common reason for students mispronouncing words in English, but as I said, I've looked at all the most common mistakes from the students inside my pronunciation course and my daily quick fix course over the past 6 months, and there weren't many of these silent letter corrections. So the 2 that were commonly mispronounced were this one, which has a silent B. It's debt. And it's important to remember that when I or anybody else says that a silent letter is silent, it means that you must not pronounce it. Don't even think about it when you're pronouncing the word. Silent B. Debt. 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 And the other one is this one, which has a silent W. It's answer. Answer. No W in this word. And another similar word to this is the word sword. Sword, which has a completely silent W too. Don't try to spell English when you're talking to people because it will not work and it will be much more difficult to understand you. Okay, silent letters is a complicated topic in English. There aren't many rules, but I found some. And in that video up there, I've given you some silent letter rules so that you can avoid this mistake and be understood more clearly. If you want to really improve your pronunciation so that you can speak more clearly and be understood more easily and to understand native speakers more easily, then in my daily quick fix group, we use the bite-sized method just to give you a little bit of English every day to take your English to an advanced level. And every week we focus on one specific sound of English, and also every week we focus on some linking techniques, some stress, some silent letters, everything that is going to help you speak advanced English in an easy to understand way. And if you're ready to join my full British English pronunciation course, then join Pronunciation Quick Fix. That is a full comprehensive course of all the vowel sounds, all the consonant sounds, all the linking techniques, all silent letters, all the rules on stress and linking, and that course comes with weekly personalized feedback from me on your pronunciation. So I'll leave a link and a coupon code for both courses in the description. I'd love to have you there and to help you with your British English pronunciation. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you liked it, thumbs up, blah de blah, and bye for now.